Hi there, I want to make a really quick intro to this video to say that if you can't watch more than a few minutes today, please make sure that you book your smear test. If you've been putting it off, if you've been busy, if yours was delayed due to COVID, please book it. I know there's lots of things in life that get in the way or people are worried about them, and it's just a few seconds of being uncomfortable that really could save your life. So please book your smear test. And if you know someone that's been putting theirs off, please encourage them to do the same. Hello, welcome back to You Better Werk for a different type of video. I say that all the time, but this is a very different type of video. One that I never thought that I would be making, but one that I feel is really important to make, just to encourage more people to be aware and to get their smear test, as I've just mentioned. If you are able to think about making a donation or you want to find out more information about cervical cancer, then please look at the Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust website, which I will link in the description below. So I'm going to insert a couple of clips here that I recorded a few months ago, when I was going through all of this, to kind of explain, and also so you can see. I don't visibly get upset, but I think that you can tell through the clips that I was really scared and I was upset. So I'll let past me kind of explain, and then I'll come back to do the what's happened since those clips were filmed, because I didn't know if I'd put this video out, and I didn't get very far in filming because I kind of had my operation and wasn't very well. So yeah, I'll put those in here, but the main thing I guess to say before I played them is I wanted to make this video to share my experience. There's lots of videos on YouTube about the actual process of going for a smear test, which I think are really brilliant and really informative, particularly if you've not had one before. But I think if you have had one before and you're nervous about going again, or you have had one before and it was clear and you're just thinking, oh, mine's a little bit late, like, don't worry, this is your message to book that test and to do it. And I wanted to share kind of what happens when you don't get a clear result and why it's so important to keep all of your appointments. So yeah. Hello. So I don't actually know if I'll even do a video on this, but I thought I would capture this as it kind of happens, just in case I decide that I do want to do a video. So I have been to the hospital this morning for a colposcopy. So basically last year, at my smear test, they found that I had HPV, so I had to go back for another smear test this year, so 12 months later, which, if you don't know, that's sooner than you normally go. I think you normally go every 3 years, but I might be wrong. Just to check, because HPV is like a cold, so normally your body will just get rid of it. And unfortunately, I got the letter back saying that not only had I still got HPV, but I had got some severely abnormal cells. So I was invited for a colposcopy. I went for a colposcopy about 8 years ago now, 9 years ago, I can't think. 8 years ago. Because I had some unusual bleeding, and basically you can either have low cell changes, moderate, or severe, and at that time I had low, which means that there's an 80% chance that they will just go back to normal, which they obviously must have done, so they did nothing. Moderate, they will keep you under surveillance, and severe, you have to have a loop treatment, which is basically a wire loop about that big, I think it was when they showed it to me. It's not very big. That has an electrical current running through it, and they basically burn off the abnormal cells. Yeah, so I went this morning and didn't realise from the letter and everything, but I definitely needed the treatment, and without going into the ins and outs, excuse the wording, couldn't have the treatment done, so I had the local anaesthetic injected. I think I had about 4 injections, and basically my legs had been up so long and I'd got so stressed that I couldn't keep my legs still, and you have to be completely still for about 10 seconds while they do it. So I asked them if I could have it done there and then, like, could they wait a minute, and they said they just didn't feel that they could do it safely, so they are going to do it under general anaesthetic, which will be after I get back from holiday, because you normally have about 4 weeks of sort of cramping and bleeding and side effects. So we wait now. At the time that they do the loop treatment, they'll do a biopsy. This is a really bad camera angle, I'm sorry, I'm holding it on a little tripod. Yeah, they'll do a biopsy, and then you find out sort of whether you've got cancer, basically. So they give you a little booklet, and it's got like a line, and there's like normal, mild, which is what I had last time, moderate, severe cancer. So I'm at least on the severe side of things. So yeah, I don't really know how to feel. I don't really feel like I have any answers. She said that there's quite a lot that needs removing, and it really needs removing, so it's obviously quite bad, but I don't know. They are really kind and really great, and things are, you know, I only had my smear test 2 weeks ago, and I'm already having, or 3 weeks ago I think it was, at the most 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I've already had my hospital appointment, and now I've got to wait, but that's mainly because I'm going on holiday and the side effects and all of that stuff. So yeah, I guess if I do make this a video, if you're watching this and I have put it out, make sure you get your smear, and also if you're younger, because I had this abnormal bleeding with the low grade when I was 20, so it was before I had smear tests, but I went and again got seen and had a colposcopy. At that time they literally just did the colposcopy, which is like putting a speculum in and using a light and a camera that doesn't go in to have a look at your cervix, and it's really, really fine. You sit on a really comfortable chair that puts you in the right position, shall we say, to have it done. So yeah, you know, just make sure that whatever age you are, you go. I was a bit silly in that I was the first year of people that could have the HPV vaccines, and I chose not to have it. And I'm not anti-vax at all. I don't know why I didn't have it. I think I was scared, and yeah, I didn't have it. So it was a bit silly. And who knows whether that would have stopped what's happening now. But yeah, get your vaccines, get your smear tests, get your checks, because no matter what happens now, there are going to be ramifications for having this treatment. There are going to be side effects. There are going to be regular tests. And it's just not a very nice thing to go through. And yeah, I guess I just feel a bit like, if you've watched my chronic illness video, or if you have a chronic illness, you'll understand, but I just feel a little bit like my body just lets me down time after time and it's trying to kill me. So yeah, I don't feel so great today, but if this video, I'm scared of lots of things, but I'm not scared of getting my smear test, so please go have it. And if you're invited for something else, make sure you go have that as well. And yeah, I will maybe pick this up again in September or whenever it is that I have my operation under general anaesthetic. Yeah. Hello. So it is now a week since I filmed that clip, or nearly a week. And since then I've had lots of calls from the hospital offering me different appointments. They basically messed up, and there was confusion around when I'm on holiday, because there's sort of side effects and recovery time of like 4 weeks after this surgery, whether you get it done under general or local anaesthetic. So basically, it's all a little bit cryptic. I'm not quite sure, like, exactly how serious or how worried I should be, but I'm going on Tuesday. So it's currently Tuesday. I had the colposcopy on Wednesday last week, and a week today I will be having the LLETZ loop treatment under general anaesthetic. The nurse basically just said if it was her, she would get it done before she goes on holiday. I should have sort of 5 weeks in between having it done and recovery. So she said just, get it done. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not that happy about it because I didn't really want it before the holiday, but also I kind of feel like if they keep offering me surgery dates and calling me, that probably it needs to be done, and they don't want to scare you and say, it's going to be something that you need to be needs to be done immediately. So yeah, I'm just sort of going with the flow now because I spent a couple of days last week worrying about it, and now I'm just not worried about it. I just want to get it done and get it over with. So I'll probably record again on Tuesday. So yeah, you can see that I was putting on a bit of a brave face and quite scared, but you can imagine how much more scared I was behind the camera, as it were. I did keep getting phone calls, as I mentioned, which were asking me to go, and so in my gut I kind of knew that there must have been a reason that they wanted me to go sooner. And when I'm referring to going on holiday, I actually mean that we were going to get married and go on our honeymoon, and I really, really didn't want the side effects to last through into the wedding and the honeymoon. So it made it kind of doubly complicated, but in the end I did end up going to that appointment and having the operation. I haven't had general anaesthetic since I was about 6, and I had some grommets put in my ear to help with my hearing. So I guess I was a little bit nervous, but I generally kind of trust doctors and nurses and healthcare professionals, so I wasn't too worried about that aspect. I think I was worried more about the side effects afterwards. So I guess if I can just kind of explain the process of what happened and what's happened since, and yeah, if that's useful for people, if you're going through a similar thing, or in the future if something like this happens to you, at least you'll have the information. So yeah, basically I went in, I got dropped off, was in the waiting room, then you kind of go and meet your surgeon, and then you go back in the waiting room, then you go and meet your anaesthetist. I can't say that. Good job I'm not in medicine. The person who will put you to sleep. And then you kind of get your gown and everything and get taken down into theatre. And then yeah, you have your cannula put in, which took ages on me because I don't really have any visible good veins of my hands. It's a common problem that I'm used to from other procedures that I've had. And then the procedure happens, have no memory of it, I was asleep. I woke up and I was a bit teary, which apparently is quite common for people coming out of general anaesthetic. Remember the surgeon came over and tried to speak to me, and I was just crying. I would say weeping, I wasn't sobbing. And she was like, oh, I'll come back when you can kind of take in a bit more what I've said. So then the nurses were just really kind, gave me a drink, checking I was okay, continually taking like your blood pressure and stuff like that. And then the surgeon came over and said, yeah, it went well. We got everything. It was a relatively small area of cells that had to be removed. You'll get your results. I think she said you'll get your results in 4 weeks. And that's the results of the biopsy, and that, you know, the side effects to be as expected. So I guess to be kind of open, the side effects are, as you might expect, some cramping and bleeding, which lasts for around 4 weeks. And in that time, you can't like go swimming or have a bath, or use tampons, that kind of thing. So yeah, basically that was why I was worried, because I think I had about 5 weeks before the wedding. So I was like, if they don't last for 4 weeks, then there's going to be a problem. But the side effects lasted pretty much for 4 weeks on the dot and then stopped, thank goodness. So yeah, all of the care was brilliant, as you'd expect from the NHS. And it's a what do they call it, an outpatient thing. So even though you had general anaesthetic, so long as everything goes well, I literally went home like a few hours after my operation. I had to stay in like a recovery ward. I ate some food, being gluten-free and vegetarian. It was a stew of some sort, and I literally inhaled it so quickly because you can't eat before the operation for a certain amount of hours. So I was starving, and I just like inhaled this plate of food that had gravy on it. I have no idea what it was. And I think they give you some pain relief kind of during the operation, but after that I only had paracetamol. There were a couple of days where the pain was really quite bad, and I was wondering whether to go back to the hospital or call the hospital. But it always kind of got better, and I would say it was just like really bad period cramps. So yeah, overall I couldn't say that it was that bad a procedure. I guess that's the other thing I want to say, is if you are preparing for a LETS procedure, it's fine. Like, it's really not bad. Um you don't feel any different than what I've described. And yeah, I guess it's only a minor procedure, so it's not that big a deal, which is kind of weird when you think about the fact that it is a big deal what they're actually removing. But anyway, so yeah, I go home, I deal with the side effects. It did mean that I needed to work from home. I think I had maybe like a day or two off, but worked from home and was in work. Like, you don't need 4 weeks off work or anything like that. And my results never came. So I was just a bit confused, and I called and I was like, oh, I haven't had my results yet. And they were like, oh, you need to call another number. So I called another number, and everything was just a little bit, I don't want to say suspicious, but I could tell that something wasn't right, because they'd been so explicit that I'd have the results, and I didn't have the results. And then I got this letter for a telephone appointment, which was going to be after we got back off our honeymoon, because the hospital knew when I was away. So I called and I said, like, I wasn't expecting a telephone appointment. Can you let me know, like, why I'm having a telephone appointment? I'm guessing it's not urgent because it's by telephone and it's in a few weeks' time. And they just said, like, oh yeah, your results have been assessed. Like, let me see if I can find anything. And then the secretary went really quiet and was like, oh, I don't know how to interpret these results. You're gonna have to wait for your appointment. So I pretty much guessed what had happened. And although it was difficult, I had obviously the wedding to get ready for. I was very much focused on my side effects getting better. And yeah, I just focused on kind of going on holiday and having a good time. And then I got back, and a few days later had my telephone appointment. The surgeon just said to me that she hadn't wanted to like tell me the news before I went to get married, to like in case it upset me, but that they had found that it was stage 1 cancer in the cells. So I had some precancerous cells around the edge, which have also been removed, and then in the centre of the area they found stage 1. Now, with this stage 1 cancer, it's been removed. All of the precancerous cells have been removed. It was very, very, very tiny, like millimeters. I can't even remember what she said, but it's like so tiny I couldn't even like process it in a way. Obviously still important to get rid of because it may not remain tiny, but it has been gotten rid of, and it doesn't require any other treatment. So she said to me, don't look online at stage 1 cervical cancer. Don't look at like stories of other people because yours is different. And I guess, you know, that's worth flagging here. Like my experience might not be the same as your experience, but she said like it's just really important that you keep all of your appointments. And I guess that's what I want to say is, for background, like I have never missed a smear test appointment. I've always booked them as soon as the letter comes. I had my first one before I was even 25 because I just booked it as soon as the letter came. And that's partly probably because I did have some problems when I was 20, which I think I mentioned in one of the earlier videos. So I guess I've just been super vigilant in that sense. But I wanted to make this video because I know people who aren't as vigilant with their tests, and if it can happen to me going you know, as soon as possible, then, you know, leaving it any later might have been the difference between it being that small and a bit bigger. So yeah, I don't want to scare people. It's not about scaring people. It's not about saying that you will go and you will have cancer. It's just about saying like, this is the difference between me finding out that I had it and not. And it's a huge thing. Like, I'm so lucky to have the NHS and the wonderful screening system that we have. I now will have a check every 6 months for the first year, and then once a year for 10 years. And I am at higher risk of it coming back. You know, she said to me, that's why we do the checks, because you're high risk of it coming back, and we want to make sure that we find it early. Just as a bit of info, if they hadn't have found cancer in the biopsy, then I would have had to go back in 6 months to check it was all gone, and then I would have gone back onto the 3-yearly cycle of smear tests. So that's another outcome of the LETs. And I think with the LETs, like generally, if you've gone through like the smear test route, it is rarer for it to come out that it was stage 1 cancer. It normally comes out that it was like precancerous cells, which obviously you still need to get removed. But I just feel so, it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling to have had cancer removed and to never even have known that I had cancer. Is probably the best way, because I didn't have, although I was scared, I didn't have like a I'm having a cancer removed operation. I just had a I'm having a procedure to get rid of these cells operation. But yeah, it's caught so early. And so from my smear test last year saying, yep, you have HPV, smear test this year, to the operation only a few weeks later, just incredible. so yeah, it's so important to protect the NHS, and I've always felt like that through my various health problems, but never more so than this situation. Um, and yeah, I'm getting rambly, so I'm gonna like stop talking about that. I guess the only other thing I wanted to say was, if you also have any symptoms and you're not old enough to get a smear test, or you're worried about anything, go to the doctors, go to the GP. As I mentioned, I had tests and referrals when I was 20 for some abnormal bleeding, um, and you know your body, you know what's normal for it or what's not normal for it. It could be bleeding, it could be pain, cramps, other things like that. Just anything that's out of the ordinary for you, just make sure that you go. As I say, even if you're not old enough to be eligible for the smear test, which I think happened from when you're 25. And you know, from my experience, I had the smear test. The nurse who did the smear test said, "Oh, something doesn't look quite right." This was in the one this year, sorry. And then she said, "I think you should book in with your GP." So I booked in with the GP, who a week later said, "Oh yeah, you've got perfectly healthy cervix. It looks fine." And then I get a letter saying, "Yeah, we found stuff," which obviously then turned out to be cancer. So if you're not comfortable, get a second opinion. Make sure that you are being looked after. The NHS is brilliant, but they deal with a huge amount of people, and GPs have to have such a general knowledge. I don't blame that GP at all. But that was my experience, that I was told that by a nurse that it didn't look right, then by a GP that it looked healthy, and then it turned out that it really wasn't healthy. So yeah, just please look after yourself. Take advantage of these free tests that are there to protect you. They're there for a reason. And if you are preparing for a LETS procedure, then feel free to drop me a message or a comment if you have any questions. Please don't worry about it. You know, what is 4 weeks of a bit of uncomfortable and a bit of pain and bleeding compared to having something far more serious, is what I would say. So I'm all fine. I'll be going for my checks once a year for every 10 years, which feels like a long time. And you know, it's something that I'm coming to terms with, and you know, gradually dealing with, I guess, because it doesn't really feel real. But I'm just hugely grateful, and I wouldn't normally share something this personal, but I really do just want to encourage, even if I can encourage one person. I posted it on my personal Facebook and Instagram and said, if I can get one person to book their test, then it'll be worth it. And someone commented and said that they'd had their letter a few weeks ago and hadn't done it, so they were doing it today. And that just meant the world to me. So if I can do the same on the channel, it's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's embarrassing, but it's a very personal thing to share. And I've only just felt like I could really talk about it. It took a little while, not because I was emotional, but I almost felt a bit weird about sharing it. So yeah, if I can help someone or point people to Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust, then it will have been worth it. So please take care of yourself. Please go to your doctors if anything isn't right. Go to your smear test as soon as you're called up for one. And yeah, that's all I can say. Thank goodness I did. Thank goodness there wasn't anything worse, and I'm incredibly grateful and lucky that it wasn't anything more serious. Cancer comes in all shapes and forms, as all too many of us know, and this was a very minor thing, but it could have been so much worse. So yeah, I hope that that's been helpful to people. I hope that makes you feel a bit less scared if anything does happen. You know, it's not scary to go on to that next step beyond the smear test. I know a lot of women get very worried in case they get a positive or something come up that's abnormal, but it really isn't anything to be worried about at that stage. And everyone's just so lovely. I've had so many invites to Macmillan Cancer coffee chats, and I can go into the Macmillan Cove, I think it's called, at the hospital anytime that I want to talk about anything. I've also had to do a general health assessment to make sure that I'm coping with the diagnosis, and that's all for someone who's had it removed. So the support has just been incredible. Yeah, I'm gonna stop talking now because I keep ranting because it's a very emotional topic. But if you have found this video useful, I normally say if you've enjoyed this video, but probably not the right thing to say. If you found this video useful, then please hit the thumbs up button so it can reach more people. Consider subscribing to You Better Werk for lots of different types of content relating to women and women at work and health and careers and studying and all sorts of things. And I hope you have a lovely week. Bye.